everybody for coming this evening. We are so excited to have this turnout. We have more people this year than we did last year, so we are so excited about that. Just a couple quick housekeeping rules. Our bathrooms are right over here, so to my right, your left. If you guys need to sneak out, the bathroom is right there. We'll do a quick intermission before we break for audience questions, but to get started, my name is Jocelyn Hartshorn, and I am the Senior Vice President, Chief Lending Officer for here at TrueCore, and I'm going to act as your moderator this evening. We're going to go ahead and have the panelists get started. Alicia?
My name's Alicia Kopp. I'm here at TrueCore Federal at the DO Drive office. I've been the primary mortgage loan officer for the past year, but I've been doing mortgages since 2011, and I've been with the credit union for a lot longer than that. And my favorite thing about this job is telling people that we're ready to close. You can close on your house and get your keys and move. So.
That's awesome. I'm Danielle Clark. I'm from Coldwell Banker Realty. I actually work with a specific team called the Guansel Group, and we are right on the square down in Newark. My favorite part about being a realtor is being able to partner with you guys to figure out what your real estate goals are and help you take a next step towards home ownership and everything in between. So if you have 1,000 questions, I'm here to answer them all twice or 3 times.
Hi, I'm Barrett Pastoric. I'm the owner of Bear Property Inspections. My first name is Barrett, B-A-R-A-N-T. It's kind of a unique name, so I got the nickname Bear when I was very young. So my wife, my family, my friends all call me Bear, and that's where I get the name of my company, Bear Property Inspections. I've been inspecting houses for about 8 years. We're based out of Granville, and we service Central and Eastern Ohio. And what I love most about what I do is really helping people. It just makes me feel good. I like to make sure that people really understand what they're getting into when they buy a home. So I really like to give them the full story about it, and that helps me sleep good at night. And I also love having my own schedule and being able to be at home with the kids and be a coach and be out to all the kids' activities too.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle Sammons, and I'm with the Ambassador Title Agency here in Newark. I've been in the business since 1998, so 27 years now, and I was blessed to be able to join the Ambassador Title family a couple years ago. My favorite part about the whole process is watching your hands shake as you sign those mortgage papers, and all of a sudden I say, and that's it, it's official, it's yours, and the light that comes across your face gives me tears. So let's get you to that point.
It's Josh with Lewis Clark Insurance. I'm used to saying personal lines insurance agent for the group. I don't have to say that this evening. So been in the industry for 23 years, including life, sales over in Columbus, New Albany. So all over, just the industry, just a nerd, absolute nerd. Lewis Clark is my grandfather. People call in, they're like, oh, the Expedition. I'm like, it's like my papaw, but yes, that works. But we are a 3-generation family business, literally just at the end of the street. So we're local. And my favorite thing about insurance, because people are like, that's interesting, is just basically saying that this can be like at a 4th grade level. Like really adulting things can be really, really, really simple, and we can walk you through that process and make you feel like you just got off of recess. So Josh with Lewis Clark.
Well, thank you very much to our team of experts. We're going to get started with some questions. Josh, I think my 11-year-old son might disagree about the recess thing because he's really into Foursquare, so I'll talk to him about it though. We'll compare it. But all right, so we're going to get started. Alicia, what is the difference between a pre-qualification versus a pre-approval, and why are they both important?
Okay, so a pre-qualification, you're going to come in and you're going to sit down with me. You're going to tell me what your income is, what your savings and checking account looks like. We're going to pull your credit report. We're going to go through all of that. Pre-approval takes that one step further. I'm going to ask you to provide your pay stubs. I'm going to ask you to provide your taxes, your statements to show me that, yes, you do have the money that you're telling me that you have. Then I'm going to take all of that paperwork. I'm going to provide it to an underwriter. An underwriter reviews it. Both a pre-qualification and a pre-approval are both good because it tells a realtor that you've already done the process to start looking for a loan and that you're credit approved. The pre-approval takes it one step further, and it lets Danielle know your paperwork's already been reviewed, you're good to go, you just have to find a house. You're just a little bit more stronger with a pre-approval, but they're both good to have.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. that leads right into my question for Danielle. Danielle, what is the role of the realtor, and can you talk about how the home shopping looks like?
Yeah. So my job is to make sure you know the pieces and the parts and how they come together. Kind of like I mentioned before, I honestly have been in your shoes. Let's just start there. I've been in your shoes, and I remember looking at my husband and going, I hope you know what you're signing, because I have no idea. And my job is to make sure that you don't feel that way when we get to the closing table. And so I like to start with a buyer consultation. It's very similar to this conversation we're having today. So hey, you're already one step ahead. But what it's gonna look like, it's going to be a conversation about what it is that your goal is and how I'm gonna help you get there. It includes the conversation about your pre-approval letter. I'm gonna tell you just flat out, in this current market, you don't want to be going into the market looking for a home without a pre-approval letter. You're going to get overlooked past the, sellers are going to look for people who already have pre-approval, because it's setting you one step forward. So start with that. But then what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to work within a budget. We want to make sure that you are not looking for a home that is too far outside of your reach. And my job is to make sure that you don't overpay for a home. And so I try to simplify that process during the home buyer consultation. We'll do preferences, we'll do your budget. We'll also set the expectations for what it looks like once we start going, and looking at homes. I set up a search where you get access directly to the MLS so that you can see what I see coming onto the market in your price range. And then if you want to see a house, you text me and say, hey, 123 Main Street, and we set a time that we go. And then the next step is, contracts. So.
Perfect. All right, Bear, we're going to jump to you, and I want to call you Bear because now you said everybody calls you that. So, but I won't. I won't. During a home inspection, what do you look for, and what are the most common questions that generally home buyers have for you?
I would say the most important thing that I look for during an inspection are safety hazards, things that really would endanger my clients. Being a father, I always inspect with the kids in mind. So that could be anything from like electrical shock hazards or trip hazards or just unsafe conditions. But I would say that for someone that's buying a home, it's those big dollar concerns, those material defects that could adversely affect the value of the home. That's really what I'm focused on. No home is perfect. Like every home has defects. Even brand new built homes have defects. Unfortunately, I've yet to find the perfect home. I've been looking for years and still haven't found it. But those are what I'm really focused on, are those big top 5 or top 10 things that my client may ask the seller to fix or ask for cash at closing, or just things to keep front of mind once they take possession of the home to correct themselves. And that's really why it's so important that they get the full story about their home. So not only are they aware of the big things, but also some of the little things that they can pick off over the years too. And as far as common questions, I would say the most common one I get is, would you buy this home? Everybody wants to know, is a home inspector going to buy it? But it all depends on your appetite. Older homes tend to have more defects. They tend to have more maintenance issues. So I would say that each home is specific to each buyer, and if you're a do-it-yourselfer or you're kind of handy, I think maybe an older home or a home that has more problems or things that might need to be corrected, that would be a better home for you. But at the same time, every home has some things wrong with it, and it's just all about being able to take care of some of those things yourself, because if you pay a contractor, you could probably go broke pretty quick trying to have everything fixed in your home by a contractor. So it just depends on the individual and the actual condition of the home. And then I also get a question of, hey, you presented all these problems to me. Who do I call to fix these? So I can't just give my clients a list of a bunch of problems. I also have to have reputable contractors that they can reach out to that I know are going to take great care of my clients, whether it's an electrician, a plumber, a radon mitigation person, a roofer, any of those things. So I have a lengthy list of contacts that I make available to my clients to make sure they have the right people to fix the problems I find.
Perfect. So not those professional YouTubers that my husband likes to try to watch the video to fix it. Josh, you didn't hear that for insurance purposes. But all right, Rochelle, I have a question for you. What is a title company's role in the transaction of buying a home, and what does that look like?
Yes, ma'am. So we, title insurance company, we are technically a disinterested third party to the transaction. We're technically not on the buyer's side. and we're not on the seller's side. We are there to make the transaction come together for both parties based on the contract that they executed, based on their mortgage documents, and we are fair to both sides. We when the seller is selling the property, we perform what's called a title examination of that property at the county courthouse. We go back 42 years and make sure that every person that has owned that house for the past 42 years, their deed was executed properly with marital status, with a proper notary acknowledgement. Most importantly, we also make sure that all of their mortgages or liens, anything like that, was paid for and cleared from title, so that doesn't become a burden on your ownership of the home. And one of the most kind of two-pronged thing, we do settlement and escrow, which is what I call shuffling the paperwork and dispersing the money between the parties. And then the other very important part of what we do is the title insurance. There's two types of title insurance mainly: an owner's policy of title insurance, and that ensures the buyer has free and clear ownership of the home. So nobody in the back chain of title can come back and make a claim on that property and take that asset from you. The other type of title insurance we issue is a lender's title insurance policy, and that's where we ensure your mortgage company has first and best lien position on the property. So bottom line, their mortgage is first. God forbid you'd have an issue with payments or foreclosure pops up, they get their money first, is the bottom line of what a loan policy does. So we're a disinterested third party, want to make sure everybody's happy, make sure the buyer knows what current easements, restrictions, survey issues, any of taxes, any of that kind of stuff are filed against the property, so you know fully what your ownership of the property looks like.
Perfect, thank you. All right, Josh, I've got a couple questions for you. What options do you have to obtain an insurance quote? And can you walk us through the process of receiving your quote to that finalized policy?
Yeah, for sure. So we are independent agency, so we basically are like the whole, like, you got a friend in me with the buddy and the, the Buzz and the Woody stuff. A lot of Pixar references. You're welcome.
Woody, you be Buzz.
Just because there's kids in the room. So we are independent agents, are not captive carriers. They're not State Farm, Nationwide, all states. Now, some of those carriers have switched over to, they have access to, like, your Progressives and your different carriers, Ohio Mutual and Covas. But they typically write State Farm, Nationwide, Allstate, American Family. That's all they have. So if you have pricing issues or coverage issues or claims issues, then you have to pick up your policies and you have to go somewhere else. With our agency, we have 5 big carriers. We represent Ohio Mutual and Cova, Wayne Insurance, Auto Owners, and also Grange. Those are our multi-line carriers that we can insure with. That give you the home and the auto policy discount, which is typically an 18 to 22% discount for having auto and then home at the same carrier. Not the same agency, the same carrier. We also have Progressive, which can insure different types of risk as well. So what that process looks like when you call in and say, hey, I'm looking at a home. Okay, so typically by the time it gets to us, you found your home. It isn't like, I'm thinking about buying this car. Here's a pretend VIN number, right? We're not really at that point, like that process. When you call us, you've already got an address. Like, we're legit gonna buy that house. What is it going to cost? Because the step after us, after we've asked you, are there any pools, ponds, trampolines? What's the age of the roof? Because after Bear has told you all this information and you guys have got your pre-approval letter, you notice I'm at the end, because at this point, it's about to go down, right? You're about to have a house. All I want to know is, when's your closing date and what is your escrow mortgage clause? How does it need to read? And what is your loan number? What is your closing date? I'll get all this information, the A's, the B's, and the C's, and I'll put that in a system, and it kicks out your number. Let's say you pay $225,000 for a house. Here, it won't buy you much, but $225,000 for just example purposes. I'm going to run a replacement cost estimator, which is the year of the house, the year of the roof, this and that, vinyl siding, and it comes out with $275,000. Well, that is clearly going to suffice and pacify all of these numbers and everyone down from here. They're going to say, well, this is good. It's going to replace that house. So we basically say, Sam and Jenna, right? When you're done, forward this on to your bank, and they will get me the information that we need. After that point, I literally say, and now you just wait and enjoy the process. I will contact you on the closing date and ask you if this loan has closed. I will then send you, and I'll go ahead and hit finalize, and it is literally that easy. Like, that is the process. As far as when it gets to us, it's go time. Like, you are already in the house. All you're doing is waiting on the nervous handshake to sign the paperwork. And then you get to come in, and we'll sign electronically or in person. I prefer in person because I'm old school. But we'll do all of those things to side hugs, bro hugs, fist bumps, whatever we need to do to get you jacked because you just bought a house. So
That's good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back down the table, so I'm going to have another question for you.
Super.
I know you're ready. What are a few items that homeowners should make sure they have in their policy when they are buying?
yes, so it's good that there's a bunch of stuff that's good to have in your policy as far as endorsements. My mother, Cindy, who owns the business, she says, well, you do it the opposite. You fatten up the policy and then let them trim it off. She's like, I'll just give them kind of like what I feel like is necessary and then let them add on. Like, you want shoelaces? You want fries? I feel like I'm going to write your policy the way I want you to write my policy. Kind of like the kindergarten, like I want you to be nice to me because I want to be nice to you type thing. I want to see the most coverages on there. Now, what that will do, unfortunately for us, is it'll weed out the clients that are just price driven. Because we're putting the coverages on there that we feel like we want to say when you call in. My favorite thing is hey, if you have a claim, how do you expect your policy to respond? Would you like for me to tell you that it's covered? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's why I'm writing this policy the way I am. Because I've had multiple people call and say, thank you. If you had not put service line, which is for underground buried lines, whether that be coaxial, buried anything coming into your house, servicing the home, you can't even control that being in town. You can't even control that. The main line, you have no control over that. You can't see it. So there's a bunch of endorsements that are important, but the biggest thing would be for your roof. If I was to lay one out, knowing the difference between actual cash value or ACV, nerdy terms, or replacement cost, which is typically what your house is, and that the bank is going to want to see for a home policy for insurance replacement. So that being said, there's a ton of important items on that policy, but the most probably would be knowing the difference between, is this policy a replacement policy or is it an actual cash value policy? Because the bank is going to want to absolutely know if that is it. So that would be probably the main pinnacle, is that, yeah. So.
All right, thank you. Rochelle, I know you kind of talked about what title insurance is. Sometimes as a lender we'll hear that maybe the buyer doesn't want to have an owner's title policy. Can you kind of talk through why you feel it's important and why sometimes people may not want to add that in?
Absolutely, definitely. So, as I mentioned, as a buyer, when you purchase the property, very often you receive what's called an owner's policy of title insurance. And that is ensuring you, the new owner of the property, that again, you own the property free and clear of any liens or claims of prior owners. So we're insuring you for everything back in the chain of title. Now, to me, the most important thing is a home is often the biggest investment that any of us make in our lives. The beautiful thing, I think, as a title agent about our local Board of Realtor contracts is it says right in the contract, there's a whole title insurance section, and it says the seller shall furnish and pay for a homeowner's policy of title insurance in favor of the buyer. So really, you as the buyer are not paying for that policy to ensure your ownership. The seller is actually paying for that if it's a local Board of Realtors contract. And really what I see there is it's just another assurance. It's kind of like the seller buying a home warranty that's going to cover your furnace and your appliances and your water heater. The seller is also giving you this title insurance to say, we're selling you this property free and clear of all encumbrances, prior owner liens. Nobody can come back and take this from you. So it's really, to me, very important because number one, it's a one-time payment. It's not annual payments like homeowners insurance, but we're a little different than them because we're insuring the past. He's insuring what's happening going forward, and of course replacement and all of those types of things. So to me also the other very important part of your owner's policy of title insurance is in the first 10 years that you own the property, if you refinance or would sell the property, you get about a 30% discount off of that new policy that you would be buying for your buyer of the property. So it gives you a little discount as well, but the very important part is it protects you. And I'm going to take those 30 seconds to give you a quick story. So we were handling a closing and we did the title work and we're like, what is this prior owner lien here? And in all honesty, it was a Medicaid nursing home lien for $238,000 that was filed against the prior owner. When the prior owner passes away and there's going to be probate, and if God forbid they were older and they ended up in the nursing home and they owned a house and Medicaid can file a lien, it gets real sticky. But on this one, it was $238,000 sticky. Unfortunately, the title company that closed it before, I will not say the name, they missed this. They totally missed it. And thankfully, we were able to call the Attorney General's office and speak to them and say, listen, this is the claim. The first person we talked to, they weren't having it. They weren't removing it. It was, these people are going to have to pay it. And unfortunately, the title policy that they were given showed this as an exception because it was listed as just like a basic affidavit kind of thing. It didn't say affidavit of Medicaid lien, any of that, just affidavit. So the important part I'm going to tell you all here is don't just be so worried about what your rate is and what all these mortgage documents say. Pay attention to a document you'll receive called your title insurance commitment. It's going to tell you again what easements, if you have a gas line easement, you got a water line easement, whatever easements might run across or into your property. It's also going to tell you your restrictions that are on the property. You can't have a yellow door because you're in this homeowners association, just crazy things like that. Or if there's right-of-ways, you buy a property that's out in the country and there's a big field behind it, there might be a right-of-way that says the farmer can always have access across your property to get there. So pay attention to your title commitment and your survey, the two very important parts of the title world. So sorry that was a little longer, but I had to give that example.
No, that was
Protect
perfect.
yourself. You don't know what can come back and bite you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We see a lot of shared driveways in this area as well. That's one that's going to show up on your title policy. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yep.
All right, Barrett, what type of inspections do you offer?
So Bear Property Inspections offers both residential and commercial inspections. I would say that residential is probably 90% of my business, and the majority of those are tied to a home buy, a home purchase. So typically I'm going in, representing the buyer, and really giving them the full story about their home so that they can make an informed purchase decision. But I also offer pre-listing inspections. So someone that's getting ready to list their home for sale and they want to find out what things they might be required to fix from the buyer, what kind of things would the buyer's inspector likely find. I also offer new construction inspections, and that's in a phased approach from the foundation to pre-drywall and to a final inspection for new construction builds. And then I also do 11th month warranty. When you buy a new home, you typically get a 1-year warranty from the builder. So I'll come in at the 11th month and basically provide a full inspection and provide a lengthy list of things that the builder will need to fix before that warranty term expires. And then I also do annual home maintenance. So if spring is coming, you're like, what kind of things do I need to take care of around my house? I'm going to be looking for, deferred maintenance, like your gutters need to be cleaned or improving grading around your home. So a number of different inspections and even limited scope inspections. So if you want me to just come out and check out your roof or look at my electrical panel or inspect the crawl space, I also do those limited scope type of inspections as well.
Perfect, thank you. Danielle, Will you talk to us about what it looks like when someone has found the home that they love in their price range and what that offer process looks like?
Yes.
And then also how that coincides with an inspection in that process.
Absolutely. So, so a contract itself, the state of Ohio contract is 14 pages. And the thing that I like to say to you is not everything on it applies to every buyer. And so my thing is let's break it down into the fill in the blanks. How much are we really going to offer this property? And the thing that you should know is just because a seller is asking for a certain price doesn't mean that that's what you end up paying. It could be that you end up getting a deal. It's been on the market a little while. They overprice their home. Bank error your favor. We make a lower offer and they accept it. Or it could mean that there's other competitive buyers in the market and now they're choosing to go over the list price. They'd like to, offer to pay more. How do we be competitive and, make that purchase price work for you? So 14 pages, but it's going to break down into smaller portions that we talk through about, through the whole time. So the contract itself is who, what, when, where, and how. It is the address for the property that you're choosing to purchase, who is the buyer, who is the seller. How are we going to bring money to the table? Are we financing the home? Do you happen to have cash? Are you going to finance some and bring some cash? And then we're gonna say whether we're going to offer things like earnest money, whether we're going to ask them to provide us a home warranty. We're gonna propose a closing date. So if your lender says that we can close the loan in 28 days or 32, that matters. We need to know what it's gonna take for your specific loan to close. We're gonna propose a closing date. And then we're going to tell the seller how long we're giving them to accept this offer. Because if we're going to be competitive, sometimes I don't let us go overnight. We want you to accept this offer. We know it's a good offer. We know that what we put on paper was very competitive, and we don't want to give you a chance to let anybody else into the house and make you another offer. So sometimes we'll do that. Other times, it's going to take some time for them to meet, the seller's agent to then meet with their seller, discuss the offer on the table, decide whether that's going to work. And sometimes we just need to be a little bit aware of that so that we can come off, compassionate towards that seller and their third shift, or, a mom who's staying home with kids and can't get to it till later. So, also, let me just point out on contracts itself, these are legal documents. Every single thing that you sign is a legal document. And on a contract, your name's on it and so is mine. So what I tell my first time home buyers, and I'll be honest, I tell all my buyers this, do not sign it without reading it. And I don't care if we talked about it over the phone and we had a conversation line for line, I can still typo. I don't want that to go into, the legal effect and us have to, have the repercussion of an accidental date of something we can't meet, okay? And so ask questions, reread them before you sign. And I also like to say that we make it as simple as possible. We use a system called Dot Loop, and it's as easy as using it from your phone. You can literally open it up. You can see exactly, it'll say click here to start signing, which you're not going to, right? Because you're going to read the documents before you click here to start signing. But then once you adopt your signature, it becomes a little easier to, just go ahead and throw that in. It's also going to include our 10 days that you're entitled to for your inspection. And then we have what's called remedy. And so inspection and remedy go hand in hand. We might say we only want to take 4 or 5 of those inspection days because we want to be competitive and we're going to get it done. We're going to jump right on it. And so we're going to get your inspection done. And when we're done with the inspection, you can say, I am not happy with this home. I actually realized some things about it that I'm not happy with. And this is called a contingency. It means you have the right to walk away if you're not satisfied with your inspection. But it's also going hand in hand with what we call a remedy, which is a couple of days where you can say to the seller, here's some concerns I have. My inspector, was very thorough. Here's the report he gave me, and these things are not going to fly. I can't buy this house in good faith if these things aren't fixed. And then those remedy days allow us to ask the seller to say, will you help us fix them? Either you give us the money and we can get it done after the closing, or you fix this before we go to the closing table so that we can, get our approval on it. So who's going to fix it and when? And the other part is appraisal. So you cannot buy this home if you're financing a home. You cannot buy this home without that appraisal for the most part, okay? And an appraisal is a third-party person who's going to come in and say, this is what the home is valued in accordance with, similar homes of the same price, I'm sorry, not price point, number of bedrooms, condition, location, all of those things. And what that does is it allows us, even in a competitive market, numbers can get out of hand. People want to pay what they want to pay. We're going to offer them everything. Well, that's good, except for if we hit the appraisal and they say the value's not there. So the goal is to kind of put it all on paper, be reasonable, use, good judgment, and then when we get into contract, we then hand it over to somebody else who's going to take it with that next step, which is then inspections. So again, your contingencies there are your financing, if you're financing. If you cannot get financing, you don't buy that home, okay? If you cannot get a satisfactory inspection or at least come up with a couple of days for remedy, you're not buying that home. You can walk away. And the other one is the appraisal. If you cannot get a satisfactory appraisal and all parties cannot agree to purchase at the appraisal price, you're not buying that home.
Perfect. Thank you. And then sometimes for we as the lender, the things that are found on the inspection show up on the appraisal as well. So it's great to know about those things before, because we as the lender sometimes require those things to be cleared up on the appraisal.
Yes.
Alicia, I'm going to have you talk about your buyer is in contract. So briefly walk me through what that looks like from contract to those awesome words of your clear to close.
Oh boy. Okay, so you go into contract. My number one thing is please make sure that you let me know. Most of the time, Danielle will send me the contract before you contact me to let me know that you're in contract. But please let me know that you're in contract, because if I don't know that I can get started on anything. Once I get the contract, I input the application or update the application with the property address. We have 3 business days to send you your disclosures. That basically is just your terms, everything on the loan, your interest rate, everything. So that way what we talked about is what it's coming out to on paper. You're going to review those documents. Please read them like Danielle said. And then you're going to sign them as soon as they're signed. That's when, if there's anything additional outside of the pre-approval that I need, I'm going to start collecting. You need to get those to me quickly. If you take a week to get me those documents, that's a week before I can order your appraisal. So once you sign your documents, you get me or sign your loan disclosures, get me your documents, I get everything uploaded and we get it reviewed. That is when we can get everything sent back to underwriting, and we can order the appraisal and the title. So when we order the appraisal and the title, we're basically at their mercy on how long they take. Sometimes they can get there within a couple days. The height of the season in the summertime, sometimes it's a week or 2 before they can actually get to the property, just with how busy that they are. But once we get that appraisal back, it gets reviewed. The title gets reviewed when it comes back. When that's back, everything goes back to underwriting. And then when the underwriter is satisfied with your income, your assets, the appraisal, the title and everything, that is when we get the clear to close. And unfortunately, sometimes that can take as little as, I think I've had 21 days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can take 30 days. And if there are problems that come on with the title, it could take a little bit longer. But 30 days is our goal. We always want to get you into the house and hear the words from the underwriter. We have the clear to close, so that way we can get the closing scheduled. Those are I think your favorite words too.
Well, and I was going to say too, now that you mentioned it, the one thing I didn't say that's on the contract is possession date. So just because you go to closing doesn't necessarily mean you're getting keys at closing. Now you could, but you might have negotiated that the seller needed time to close on their other home and then move out of the home, and then then you get the keys on another date. So yes, clear to close is great, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're moving the day after close. So the other part I would say is, do not schedule your moving truck until you have, not just sign the papers, but also planned that date, and we now are confirmed that we are in fact getting keys.
Yep.
Perfect. That sounds great. Do we have any questions from the audience right now? Okay, no questions right now. So I am going to ask each one of our panelists and experts to tell us why you are the best of the best and why they should go with you.
You will get 100% of my time. I have been in, I've purchased a home twice, so I know how anxiety filled it is. And being on the consumer side here at the credit union, when you come in and talk to me about doing, getting pre-approved, if there's anything that we need to try to clean on your credit report, I know what that looks like, so that way I can get you set up for success and get you pre-approved. So that way when you go see Danielle, you're ready to hit the door running to start looking at houses and putting your pre-approval in. So
That's great.
So I'm part of the Guansel Group. I've had my license for 6 years. I didn't say that, almost 7. But I am, I'm a go-getter. And I like to see you guys get to closing. So, you know, with some agents close 3 to 5, you know, transactions a year. I'm hitting 30. So I do this regularly. I'm in business. I'm also a mom. And my kids are busy little ones, and so we just work it out. And sometimes they'll, you know, come to things with me or be in the background, but we do the work and we get it done. But the one thing I would say about being a part of the Guansel Group that has served me really well is there's over 100+ years of experience on the team, and my mentor has been in the business for over 50 years. And every time that I have a question, I'm going to the people who have been in every type of market, who've experienced every kind of scenario that you could possibly imagine. And so if I don't have the question, if I don't have the answer, they do. And we work really well as a team. And that's something that I pride myself in, because we're going to come up with new things. Yes, it's the same process. Yes, it's simplified, but you're personal. And so your transaction is personal and your home is personal. And there may be things that you encounter that I've never encountered before, but we're going to get to the bottom of it and we'll do it together.
I would say that what sets me apart is just the level of care that I take with my clients. I mentioned that I like to give them the full story about their home, but our relationship doesn't end when I send the home inspection report. Every time I send a home inspection report out, I wait one day and then I call my clients and I ask them, does everything make sense? Is there anything you have questions about? And then I always say that, hey, if you ever have a question about anything in your home, whether it's next year or 7 years from now, I want you to have my number. Please use it. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. If I don't have the answer, I'll help you find someone that does. And I want that relationship to continue for very long, because how many people know a home inspector? You know, it's one of those things where not a lot of people know one. Yeah. So when I create a relationship, I like to maintain that. And I think that that's really what sets me apart. And I really take my time. You know, it's a real challenge to me to go and find everything I can wrong about a house in 4 hours. But I really kind of take that on, and that's something that I really like to try to give my clients the full story about what's going on with their home. But I would say this review kind of sums up why I'm one of the best in my industry. This is from a client from yesterday, actually. Incredible detail on his inspections to a level you won't see anywhere else. He was great with tenants, took great care while crawling absolutely everywhere. I can't recommend him more highly for an inspection that truly does more than just kicking the tires. And I think that just kind of sums up in how I treat each and every client each and every time.
Yeah, it's good. Very good.
What sets us apart at Ambassador Title Agency is we are independently owned and operated. Technically, I'm the owner of Ambassador Title Agency. Like I said, I've been doing this for about 27 years. The difference is everything that goes out the door has my name on it, and I care about what has my name on it when it goes out the door. We pay attention to the details. That crazy Medicaid lien I explained to you guys before. A lot of our large competitors that have the big names, they are having people offshores do their work. That is how that exception of an affidavit of a $238,000 lien got put on those people's title commitment, and therefore it got put on their owner's policy, and the title insurance company was not going to pay that claim on that Medicaid lien. Thank God Connie in our office was persistent and continued to call the Attorney General's office attorneys until we got somebody that listened and understood the damage that this lien was doing to this poor woman. I mean, it was a horrific story, but we care. We do not do the large number of transactions that our large competitors do. We are still small enough to pay attention to the details and care about the product that we are sending out the door, your title policy that ensures you of your largest investment in your home. So keep it local, keep it small, you'll get much better service.
And I'm 100% a supporter of Ambassador Title.
Thank you. We appreciate you. We love to work with Danielle because she's always on top of the details. It's not a last minute, hey, oh, we forgot to tell you this. Oh, here's an addendum to the contract. It's to us, and they never hold up closing. So stay local.
That's right.
I'm just glad I get to sit by you.
2 years.
Yeah, so 2 years, right. So Lots of things why any person saying I'm the best. We're all going to say that we're the best. I mean, we are. That's why, one, we actually are. That's why we're here. And we're all good, very good looking people, which is also why we're here. That being said, everybody's good. Here's your Pixar finalized. This is Josh's, like, I remember him. He's talking cartoons. I like it. So everyone's seen Bug's Life. Yes, as an adult, please say yes. Raise your hand really quick if you've seen Bug's Life. But 90%, for those of you that are on the video, 90% of the room raised their hand. There's a part in the very beginning of Bug's Life, because I was watching Toy Story and Bug's Life before I even had kids, and now they're 16 and 13. So do the math. I'm 46. So there's a part where they start freaking out because they're carrying the grains to the offering stone, right? And there's huge leaf right in the beginning of the movie. This huge leaf comes down. You're like, I remember that part. That bug freaks out. Yes, he freaks out because guess what? He couldn't find the line. Yeah. He's like, where's the line? And this old grandpa bug runs off the hill. He's like, it's okay. This is nothing like the twig of 93. You know, he freaks out. Do a fact check. That's right. That's the right year. He comes around, he goes, look into my eyes, and he's walking the bugs around that are in the line with the grains. They're walking around the leaf, and he's like, look into my eyes, we're going to go around the leaf. And he's like, around the leaf? We couldn't take it. They make it around the leaf, and wouldn't you know, they found the line again. Listen, insurance is ridiculous. It's stupid, it's expensive. People are like, well, I should use this stuff. That way I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. You don't want to do that, because then you'll be looking for a different house that's more of a shape of a box, right? It's not necessarily, there's no door that you've not carved out. I don't know if we're the best. I don't know. But I do know that the day one, when I walked into the office at Lewis Clark, Grandpa's office, my mom handed me a stack of things. And it was pictures of when I was like 5 and 6 and 7 years old, writing on change forms when we have to write everything out. I'm positive I didn't know how to write, but I was doing my best scribbles, and my grandpa like, that's right. I'm thinking, I don't know how to write cursive. He's lying to me. That's all scribbles. He's telling me this looks great. There's purpose in everything that we're doing. From this end of the panel to that end of the panel. It's just passion with purpose equals your benefit. Whether it's title, whether it's inspection, whether it's the cameras in the back of the room, everybody's just for you as you do this process. So yeah, lighting yourself up with people that are just as passionate about stinking animated films and tying that into, how is that insurance? I don't understand. Like, you just need someone to find out, hey, here's the line. Because no matter what that is, whether it's like, I don't know how to mom today. I don't know how to dad. I think I did a horrible job dadding today. We're all really just working from, these hours to this hours and going home and going, well, now here comes the hat for the evening. But this is our professional stuff that we've chosen to do for the benefit of our community, for the benefit of our people that we're doing shoulders with and we're rubbing shoulders. Like, this is all for purpose of, you just want to treat people nice. I'll be nice to you, you be nice to me. And it's very simple when he breaks it down. It's way more important than 4th grade and Pixar and how's he 46 with gray beard and I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, life is so hard. Insurance shouldn't be. Right. And that's really why we're here and doing what we're doing, because some things just shouldn't be that difficult. Right. Does that make sense? Yep. There we go. That's why we're not the best, but we're pretty darn close.
I would say that you're the best at quoting movies. Because I could literally see the movie as you're talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and now I'm visualizing
Bug's
it.
Life.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions based upon any of the information that they've shared this evening that you would like a better explanation on, or it kind of triggered something and said, I have a question on that? Yeah, in the back.
So I have a question. So I've got my approval from you, and we've got our closing date with you, and then the sellers couldn't get their other house closed. And do I have to kind of come back to square one and start my whole loan process back over with you? Because we were all set for this house, and now they backed out because they couldn't get their closing costs done and everything in like a timely manner.
I'm going to, just for the people on video,
Yeah.
just so that they, in case they couldn't hear it, if you are all set to close, so we have a clear to close, but unfortunately the seller of the home that we're seeking to buy has their own issues and now they can't sell that. So maybe they were buying another home and something happened on their side. How does that impact their process? Are they back to square one?
Yeah, so if the seller can't sell the home because they can't buy their current home, unfortunately, you're going to have to work with Danielle to get a termination contract and get that to me. And then I get that submitted. And then what I can do is take your information and I can immediately start another application. I can pull some of the information over, but once you're in contract with a property, that application I have is for that property. But I can immediately pull your information over and get a new pre-approval started for you, so that way you can keep up the process with Danielle to find another home. I might need updated information, but I can immediately get it started.
Yeah. And I'll give you a good, for instance, over the summer I had a contract that was literally dependent on our buyers selling their home to their buyers. This was our buyers. I represented the sellers here who were then going to buy a house over here. And then this family had to move to wherever it was literally 4 families. And the contingencies that were in there were very detailed and very specific, that you're not stuck buying a house if they can't move. They're not stuck having to sell you the home if they can't move. And so us terminating is still everybody agreeing that it didn't come together. So I had this scenario where they were in contract and we could not pull it together. It was not working. We ended up withdrawing from one contract and it took us, I don't know, like another week or two, found another property, gone into contract. And overall, I think that my sellers, which were also my buyers, were in contract maybe 45 to 50 days total between the two, with like a week in between. So it really didn't set everybody off because the lenders are aware of what's going on based on what's written into the contract as well. So we're all working together.
And a lot of times you won't get to your clear to close without knowing where the seller is,
Yes,
because
right.
your realtors will be speaking with each other to make sure that, hey, this is where we're at in this process. We're getting ready to order the appraisal.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Are you here? So that they all kind of work together to make sure that you're not ready to close.
Yes.
And this person is
out.
still on the initial disclosures that they haven't signed.
Yes.
So there's pieces that all kind of, that communication, and communication is very fluid throughout the process.
Yeah.
When you're making your contract, how many people can you have on it?
When-
I'm sorry?
The question from the audience is, when you're doing your contract,
Yeah.
how many people can you have on it?
Like, how many
Well-
people can go in and buy it, like, just.
So how many borrowers are allowed to be on a contract?
I'm probably going to defer this one to you. Is there a limit? I've only ever had 2.
I've never seen more than 3, but
I've-
that doesn't
yeah.
mean that there's not more.
I've heard of 3.
A lot of that depends
yeah.
upon what type of loan.
Right.
So if you're looking at one that might have to go to a government agency, there are certain restrictions with that. A lot of that has to do with, is that one that maybe TrueCore is opting to keep on our portfolio here, meaning that it would never be sold? What are our limitations? So it's not a one-for-one. It's just going to be based upon what product do you need to be able to purchase with, and does that fit your scenario that you're looking at? Yeah. So traditionally we see 2. Sometimes we've seen 3, and then sometimes people want to buy and they want to put it in a trust and different things like that. So those are all conversations that when you meet with Alicia, Danielle, and through the process that they have to make sure that all of those meet the how your loan should be set up. Does that
Yeah,
answer
one
that for
thing,
you?
Jocelyn.
Yes. Rochelle.
Just make sure you know who you're adding title. I'm not an attorney, but an attorney would tell you, make sure you know, okay, gosh, I'm just going to do this for my kids, and you add your kids to title, and thinking that you're doing like survivorship or something good if something would happen to you. Well, what you need to know is if your kid doesn't pay his school district income tax and they file a lien against him, and that lien's filed in Licking County where, say, your property is, that lien is filed, comes against you, and if you want to sell that property, you got to pay off his tax lien. So make sure if you do have multiple people on title, make sure they're good characters and they're not bringing you down.
And Rochelle, maybe you want to talk about a trust too, because if you're going to have your property in a trust, what that might mean for the lending and the title perspective of that.
Sure, absolutely. So maybe if you know you've got your property is, say you've done some estate planning and it's in John and Jane Doe, trustee of the Doe Family Trust. So that's a pretty easy one as long as John and Jane are both alive. And also a very particular part of that is how the bank looks at lending to a trust entity. So a lot of times, you know, things are done such as trust or transfer on death. Transfer on death is not as bad because it doesn't apply until death. But golly gee, what's another one? Trust. Trust is probably the best example of just doing something to protect your property. Maybe if you have a child, you want to make sure, gosh, if something happens to me, I want all of this to go to them. If you have an inheritance, either way, trust is probate protection. And I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to tell you, if you guys are taking title to your asset, to your home, make sure that if you're doing it as husband and wife, make sure there's like a survivorship language on there. God forbid something happens to either one of you, it would pass to the survivor without going through probate, which could cost you $3,000-$5,000 or more. So make sure, you know, if you're going to take title maybe as just yourself, I'm buying this house by myself. Maybe you got a brother or somebody that you go, hey, I want to put a TOD on that, which is transfer on death, beneficiary designation. And again, God forbid something happens to you, it gets transferred to that beneficiary without going through the court, without getting tied up in probate and all of that type of stuff. So any asset you have, put a beneficiary on it, and you don't have to mess with probate court. So. But I'm not an attorney, seeking attorney's advice.
She said that multiple times to make sure the camera's heard it. She's not an
They went on
attorney.
TV.
All right. What other audience questions do we have? I have pre-made ones if you guys don't have any. Yes, absolutely.
You've all been talking about pre-existing homes. What about homes that are going to be built? How is that different from pre-existing in all of your line of work?
Okay, so the question for the cameras were, we've been talking about if a home has already been pre-built. What if this is a new construction, and how does that pertain to every one of your roles?
I actually cannot lend on construction. So we do not offer construction loans at this time.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean in the future that we are not, because I know it's a product that we are looking to offer.
Okay.
So I unfortunately don't know very much about construction loans. I do know they are adjustable rate. So.
So part of my process is to figure out who we're going to start with. Are we going to start with a piece of land that you already have and you're going to build on it, and we need to find a builder? Or are we starting from ground zero and you know, we don't have a piece of property, we don't have a builder, you know? So part of it is just to figure out where we're starting. A good example is like, let's say a condo association is coming into town and somebody wants to purchase it. There may be already set up a lender who's we're going to go directly to them. We're going to take everything basically through them. I'm still going to represent you because I'm your buyer representation, and I'm going to make sure that our contracts still line up with our expectations and that we're not taken for. But then also part of it is that it's already lined out to the expectations of the builder. And so, you know, after we've gone through and decided if everybody is happy with all the pieces and parts, then you're really signing with them for the build that, you know, we're discussing, their timeline, you know, any space or gap between the timelines and unexpected, you know, items. But I mean, really, that process is quite fluid if the builder is already set up to kind of do things. So yeah, so in the most recent situation, my buyer had to pick their not only their lot and the land that was within the association, but also the style of home, you know, how many bedrooms, what style, all of those pieces and parts. And then we kind of tracked with the whole process to just make sure that, I don't know, countertops didn't get subbed out for something that you weren't expecting and things like that. But to be honest, the process is pretty fluid if it's already set up.
I'm looking at, it's probably about 3 years down the road, but of buying a piece of property property.
Yeah.
I have a set of plans already that I'm looking at.
Yes.
It's a dream plan.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, and having a house built on at least 2 acres of land somewhere in the
Yeah.
country.
And the conversation you're having between now and then is actually better, you know, between now and then,
Yeah.
because you don't want to wait till the last minute and you're trying to scramble, right? So, you know, you might find out whether there's any restrictions on that land, whether you have access to things like water, electric, sewer, can you tie in to something in a neighborhood close by? And then you're going to need to be talking to a builder who can actually accomplish the plan that
And
you're looking
that's
for.
where I would probably need more help.
Yes.
Is,
And I have referrals for those.
Yeah.
I can't speak to the plans themselves, but I can
Yeah.
find you the people to
yeah, well,
connect
the
with.
people I'm looking at the plans of will send me everything regarding information on electrical, plumbing, and all that, since I have no idea about that. That's why I hired before.
Yeah.
And how much it would be to build it here in Lincoln County. And that kind of, so I won't get taken if the contractor says, hey, it's gonna be like 10,000 over the asking price. I'm going, why is it all of a sudden, I got these plans a couple of weeks ago, and it was
Right.
35,000 to build this, and now you're telling me it's 45,000 to build it. Where's the extra $10,000 of cost coming in?
Yep.
I've been learning a lot about house inspections and all that over the last year and a half, because I've been planning now for this after my duties over with, that I can actually buy my first house.
Right.
And I will be dealing with, not the VA itself, but another bank that deals with military personnel and that kind of stuff, so I'll get a better rate of just about everything. But
And I also will highly recommend that you get an inspector, even at the beginning of the process, looking
Yes.
at the land itself.
yes, that's one thing I've learned
Yeah.
on these, watching
Right.
YouTube, inspecting, and that everything's gotta be inspected, everyone's gotta have
In the
a,
beginning.
the whole, what's it called when you do a remodel in a house?
Permits.
Permit, yes, thank you, I couldn't think of the word.
Mhm.
Of getting the permits and everything else like that, and so like I said, I've been learning a lot lately, and heard about this, I figured I'd better find out more information and that kind of stuff.
And sometimes people will look to buy the land before they look to
That's-
build. So
that's
we
what I'm
actually do
doing.
vacant land. So we actually finance vacant land. So we do
Okay.
offer that as a option. So some people will buy their land a few years before they're ready to build, so that they have that already paid
That's
off,
my plan.
and then they can utilize to build the construction. So we do vacant land financing for that,
Yeah.
and that's something that Alicia.
Yeah, that's my
Absolutely.
only goal, to buy it first, because I got about maybe 2 or 3 years before I'm
Yeah,
looking to
absolutely.
build, so to speak.
absolutely. Do you guys want to talk about the construction portion? I know
Yeah,
that-
I can speak to it from a home inspection standpoint, is that the new construction inspections typically are done in a phased approach, so it would be before the foundation is poured. So I'm out there verifying they've got a proper vapor retarder underneath where the slab is going, that they have proper rebar and the way it's set up in the foundation. And then the next phase of that would be the pre-drywall, so that would be months later. But this would all be coordinated through the construction manager, and something that I've got to kind of make myself available when the home is ready to be inspected at these stages. The pre-drywall is kind of a fun one for me, because I actually get to see inside the walls that I never get to see into in a normally finished home. And this is a time where I can see where all the electrical is, do they have the right protection plates on the studs, and it really allows me to get a real feel for how well the home was constructed from a quality standpoint. And then the final inspection, basically when it's right before closing and the final walkthrough, when the home is basically done, I come in and I'm looking, basically I'm conducting a full home inspection again, all the home systems and components, roof, exterior, all of the details of the home, and really trying to find anything that might be of concern that the builder should fix. And that even comes down to, from a client standpoint, it could even be dings and drywall. If you really want me to get that specific, I'm able to, but normally I'm just looking for the bigger things, but I can get to a very detailed level depending on my client's needs.
Perfect, thank you.
For title, the biggest concern for us in the construction process is mechanics liens. Bottom line, you go into contract to build your house, you go, okay, usually there's like a 5-draw process, sometimes it's fewer or less, or more, I should say. But like, okay, for the construction builder to get their first draw of your money, they have to have the basement dug and the walls are up, and maybe the first level is on the concrete. And then at that point in time, okay, the work has been done. The bank says, "Yep, we're going to release that first draw." Then, okay, you go, so at that point in time, whoever has done that work should get paid out of that first draw. So then, okay, we got that done. We're going on to second draw, and second draw is it's got to be framed and a roof over top of it, right? So then, okay, that's all checked off. The bank says release the money for the second draw. Okay, great. We're on to third draw, so maybe that's like siding and I don't know what else. We got siding on now, and maybe electrical and plumbing. So at that point in time, we're again doing the same thing. The work's all done, complete, approved, the bank's releasing the money. What happens, unfortunately, sometimes is contractors do not get paid. If you are building your house, keep an eye on making sure that the contractors get paid. I don't have a great example. I'm sure other folks might have that for you. I'm going to find out because hopefully I get to build a house in a couple years. But what happens is if that guy that delivered the drywall didn't get paid and he continues to not get paid, he files a mechanics lien on your property. Now your bank paid somebody to pay him, but unfortunately, while all of that's getting figured out, you've got a mechanics lien on your property and you essentially can't move forward many times. So mechanics liens are my worst nightmare in the construction world. So just make sure if you choose your builder, if they're a good builder, kind of well known, they're good. If you go with just, my uncle's blah, 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 keep an eye on it, make sure that you don't end up with mechanics liens.
From a perspective on the insurance side of things, it's not really a kicking tires perspective. We're not really like quoting the house because you might want to buy that house. By the time it gets to us, in this case, we're asking, like, let's assume the house is built. We're still looking at how many acres is it going to be on. Really, we're going to be satisfying these folks' numbers. Some questions is, what's the total build cost of the house, not including the land? What's your total loan amount that you're going to be actually financing? Because what we need to do is make sure that it's like buying a manufactured home on 30 acres. We're not going to insure your manufactured home for $500,000 because you just paid $500,000 for a manufactured home on 30 acres. Like that, the bank knows that that's not going to happen, but we have to explain that to our client. We're like, well, but my loan's $500,000. Like, well, we can't insure the house for that. Your home details, we're going to ask, and we're going to basically pretend that your house is already built. What is the square footage? I'll ask for plans, typically. Do you have house plans already drawn up? Can I see those? And sometimes if it's in a condo association, they'll already have a plan even before it's built, or they know, like, hey, here's the online plan. Well, we can just pull some of those details and kind of presume. And as that what they call it is, it's a builder's risk policy. A lot of stuff that maybe you put on as an insurance portion side of things that's a little bit more of a different, unique bird, is like, I'm going to put theft of building materials on there at any one time. Like, and this is just kind of a ballpark number, is how much material do you assume will be laying and where it's laying at any one given time. So we'll put $15,000, $20,000 of like lay on the ground material, assuming that if it's in the city or if it's within city limits, it might be more susceptible to theft or damaged and have to go back, and get new delivered. Those are some of the bigger ones, but in all reality, we're just looking at it as it's a finished product already. And then as it's being built, we're getting underwriting pictures throughout the process. When we go back and say, okay, your house is done, I notice I just need to get my boots on the ground, get some pictures of what we thought, make sure that the replacement cost estimator, the who, what, how much, all the square footage, you thought it was going to be a shingle roof. In the meantime, you found out some more money that grandma had left you. You went ahead and put a metal roof with black windows on it. Now, the replacement cost estimator, what we thought we did right initially with the plans, is now going to be higher because you put a metal roof on. The square foot, you just knocked that wall out in the plans, and now it's finished over the garage. So we go back out and we adjust the replacement cost estimator. And so that way, when we know that your house, like, you're sleeping in it, you're showering in it, you're waking up in the morning, that it is actually insured for what it is as is. So that process is kind of like, what Bear was saying, it's kind of a growing process. seeing what's behind the walls per se, and then knowing that we get to see the finished product as well. So making sure that when you say, is this a covered loss, I can say, yes, your beautiful home is covered, and we're insuring that. I'm not insuring it. The companies that we represent are insuring it. That's why I'm not stressed. I just write your policies exactly the way I would want you to write mine, and I let the companies figure it out. So it's a cool process to be a part of. I like it probably a little bit more than even like a new home purchase, because there's a lot of like quirks and little picadillos that are specific to that home. But it's cool just to know the story, and also there's a whole new level of excitement when someone gets to build a home. They're jacked, not just like buying somebody else's story as well. So, but both are you're super blessed in being able to do either one, of course. So.
Does that answer your questions? Perfect. Do we have other questions from the audience? Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're buying a home that's already existing, this is kind of toward Josh. If you're buying a home that's already existing, and 2-3 years later you do end up knocking out walls, or you replace windows, or you replace the roof, that would be updated on your side. Like we have to reach out to our agent.
Yeah. So the question is like, hey, I bought the house as is. I have insurance. Everybody is pacified down the row. We've been living in it for 2 years. We got some extra money. We've done a refinance, a home equity line of credit. We want to knock out that wall. We want to put some beams in. And we want to, blow out. We want to put a kid's room in here because we're having babies. Every year, we specifically will send out renewal inspection questionnaires for our house clients. We'll say, has anything changed for you guys? Have you gotten any dogs? Right? You wouldn't. Nobody thinks about that. Pool, pond, trampoline. How old is your roof? Wood burning. Do you have a dog? Why does that matter? It matters really a lot. Like most absolutely matters. Like, so having those re-inspection questionnaires says, hey, you know what? We did blow out that garage. We did finish this area. Well, let's talk about it. Let's make sure that that is now finished square foot, because sometimes it takes a year for the property record card to update. And when you do, you're like, oh, taxes. However, we might not have to worry about that for too long. However, sorry. Hopeful. There's that. So, but it does matter, because we want to make sure, again, when you call, if you ever would have to call and say, hey, the basement was finished, or the attic is now finished, and our replacement cost doesn't match, the company's like, well, the insured never told us. So what we do is we go that extra mile and say, or 100 feet, whatever you want to say, that extra bit, and say, hey, we're checking in to the best that we possibly can to see, has there been any major additions, room enclosures, where it was a patio, now it's enclosed, living space that we need to know about. And so that way our due diligence is always for the client, and making sure that we can always say yes. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Another example would be if you add a pool barn. So to make sure that that's covered and all the things in there, because that's a big expense, and a lot of people don't think about if they've added a garage or things like that, to make sure you have coverage for that as well.
And a pool. Pool. Yeah. People would be like, well, shouldn't that be kind of like part of my, it is. But it's not really other structures, and it's not really attached. It's the whole, like, does it touch the house? Does it not touch the house? So again, relationships matter. And it's really, really big deal to have a person, have the old grandpa elf, or the aunt come and like, here's the line. Like, it's just a really big deal to have someone to say, like, look into my eyes, so you can make sure that you're not getting pushed over when it comes to like big oops moments. So.
Any additional questions from the audience? I have one. Alicia, what's Welcome Home Funds?
All right, Welcome Home Funds is a grant that is offered every year by the FHLB. This year it's $20,000 that you can get essentially in free money. Everybody likes free money, right? So as long as you qualify for the grant, which it's income-based and specific to the county, so Licking County is $82,640 this year. You have to be under that threshold to qualify for the funds. You just have to stay in the home for 5 years. You don't have to make payments on the $20,000. You just have to stay in the home for 5 years to not pay any of it back when you go to sell the home. If you sell the home before the 5-year period, some of the proceeds come out that you'll get from the home will go back, but it's $20,000 in free money that you can help to either pay less money out of your pocket, or maybe you can get a little bit more of an expensive home than what you're originally getting in the first place.
Okay, Brittany.
So, if you can, with welcome home funds, can you purchase a home without having any of your funds?
No,
The
you
hold on.
Yeah.
The question was, with welcome home funds, do you have to have any of your own money?
You have to have a minimum of $500 of your own funds into the deal.
Minimum of 500. You started to have a question.
Yeah, $500 to buy a house.
For 20,000, yeah.
Yeah.
I would take that any day if I can. So,
When do you apply for that?
The question was, when can you apply for welcome home funds?
so once you're in contract and you've signed the disclosures, the program opens up March 3rd, so we cannot register your application with them until March 3rd. We've got to send your pay stubs to verify that you don't make more than that $82,640, and we need the signed application that has that property address. So as long as you're in contract before March 3rd, we will hit the door running when that program opens. But as long as the program is running when you go into contract, we will submit your application. The money is available until it's gone, whether that's 3 weeks. I think 1 year it was 3 months before the money was gone. So we just, from year to year, we don't know how long it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
So
In the back?
What if you're over that threshold?
Question is, what if you are over
Are
the
there other
threshold?
lanes?
Are there other lanes?
that
to-
is, the Welcome Home Funds is the only grant that we do, but we do have mortgage programs that only require 3% down payment.
And the 86,000 is a combined income?
It's household income. So even if you've got somebody living in the household that is over the age of 18, and if they have income, their income's going to get factored into that calculation if you qualify or not.
But they do look at the household. So 1 to 2 is a certain ratio, and then they look at 3 to 3 and more, and each county has different ones. Absolutely. So if you have someone that's over the age of 18 and they're not receiving income, we actually have a form that they have to sign stating that they do not receive any income, that then the FHLB will review. Yeah. Yep.
Just one, so it's for Licking County, so is it for a house being bought in Licking County or a Licking County resident currently? Just curious.
The question was, it's for Licking County, the threshold you gave. Does that mean that the property needs to be in Licking County or the borrower needs to reside when they're looking?
The property needs to be in Licking County. So if you purchase in Guernsey County, they're going to have their own threshold limits. So it's property specific per the county. And each county has their different limits. But you can purchase a property in Ohio and still finance it with us here at the credit union. So,
Yep. And each one of the counties is going to have different limitations or different restrictions in terms of what the income is. Additional questions? Yeah.
So does the 20,000 act as like a down payment on the house?
you
So does the question? Sorry. I do feel like a parrot. I apologize. Does the 20,000 act as the down payment, or what does that act like?
So the down payment, or the 20,000 you can use for a down payment and closing cost. You just need to have that $500. Okay.
Okay. I thought I saw another hand. Did I miss? No. Brittany.
I was gonna ask if I've got a pre-qualification, first of all, how long are they good for? And during the pre-qualification, would it affect it if I switched a job?
Okay. So the question was, how long is a pre-qualification good for? And what if I made a life-changing event, like switching a job, getting married, anything along those lines? Would that impact your pre-qualification?
Your pre-qualification will be good for 90 days. And if you do switch jobs, please let me know. Because yes, that can impact that. Hopefully you're in the same field. If you're in the same field, I just have to get extra paperwork. If you go from doing lawns to teaching, unfortunately that's going to slow us down a little bit. If you get married, please let me know because I need to know who your spouse is. So
What if you get divorced?
I need your divorce decree, and I need to know.
Can I throw in another
Yes.
thought? Do not go buy your appliances just because you're in contract. Do not open a credit card for your grandmother's son. I don't even care. Like, I literally, it doesn't matter who it was for, if it was a girlfriend's, whatever. You literally are signing to change the terms of your current financial situation. And I had a buyer who was in contract for 42 days before we realized that we just were not going to get there. He signed for, literally, it was like a connection to a connection, and he signed for someone else, and it wrecked the whole thing. And I think that people just forget. They get excited, but if you're gonna make a big purchase, run it by your lender and make sure that it's not gonna negatively affect where you are in the process. And we just kind of jokingly say, like, don't go buy that car yet, don't go on that big vacation yet, unless unless they're aware that you're going to be doing these things. I mean, you still can spend your money, but.
Absolutely. Any additional yes?
Regarding land, Mr. Bear,
Yeah.
would you do like a land survey or a land inspection to see if it's viable to buy? 'Cause it might be in a floodplain, 'cause I know a lot of things are built in floodplains and that kind of stuff around here, because we're a low-lying county and that kind of stuff. Or can you recommend somebody who can do that first before, like, I go out and buy it? Because that's important to me to make sure that I'm building in a safe place, it's not a floodplain, that there might be access to, because I live out in the country now, so I have access to the spring water, so,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so just for the camera, the question is, if you are seeking to buy land, Bear, what type of inspections and quality control pieces can you put in place so that when they are buying land, they make sure that they can build, that it's not in a floodplain, that they're not going to have any issues with building structures there, to make sure that it is a solid piece of land to buy on?
No, thank you for the question. I would think that if you've got a piece of land picked out, it would be wise to sit down and just have a conversation with someone like myself, like a home inspector, to talk about what some of your concerns are. If it's something that's going to be on a septic system, is it going to need a lift station, or are there some areas that might be problematic from that might come up from the Licking County Board of Health? Those are going to be the municipality entity that's going to allow or not allow certain things to be installed, and that can also have an impact on the cost when you build the home for to have a septic system that has a lift station versus not, and just the general layout. But I think having it further evaluated by like a survey company would probably be the right solution for that, just to try to get all your ducks in a row to make sure everything's ready to go when that builder takes over to begin building on the land.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have time for one more question, and then I'm going to have our experts kind of briefly, just anything that you didn't get to say that you would like to, so that we can just be conscientious of your time and have you guys out of here by 7:30. So, any final question from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
So Rochelle talked about easements and liens, but you didn't really explain what an easement is. What is it?
Sure.
So, the question was, what is an easement and how does it actually work?
Sure, absolutely. So let's say this is your city lot, okay? And your house is in the middle, and you got a street here. And there a lot of times with especially land, lots, whatever, in a subdivision in the city, there are easements. Easements are usually for some type of utility. So water, sewer, cable. There are many of them filed that are old Ohio Bell Telephone Company, which is now, I think, Spectrum, or who has them, whatever. But an easement basically means that some type of utility is coming across your property somewhere. Most of the time, they're across the front, and your water access comes into there, your electric, most utilities are going to have an easement. Now, a lot of times those easements, if it's a platted subdivision, that's already built into the plat for the subdivision. So they're not necessarily called out separately, they're filed on the plat. But let's say you also have a property, the property you're going to build on out in the country. A lot of times it's going to have an electrical easement that says, hey, and this is the part I should have jumped to as well for the city, either way, you've got a utility running across your property somewhere. What that easement says is whoever owns that utility or maintains that utility has the right to access your property to be able to maintain it. You got a water line, a water a line that comes through, the water line breaks, freezes, whatever, you want the city to have full legal ability to come in and fix your water line. So really an easement is kind of, I would call it like a boundary line kind of thing between you and who that utility is, that says they can, it's across the front 10 feet across your property, and they have the ability to come in and maintain that utility, fix it, put in new lines, take out old, whatever it is. And same thing with right-of-way a lot of times. An easement is not always technically a right-of-way, but it's kind of built in there. There are other types of right-of-ways, like I said, that are like maybe the farmer has access to cut across to the west side of your property. That's on my house. So did I cover that for you? Yes, good.
All right. Perfect. Alicia, any closing thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
We offer a range of mortgages, so we do conventional. We've got a couple different conventional products that can do a down payment as low as 3%. We do FHA, VA, and USDA loans. A lot of people don't realize that we offer those government type loans, but we absolutely can.
Okay, so first-time homebuyers are my favorite. Out of everybody that I've worked with, I can appreciate that you guys have just sat here for an hour and probably won't remember most of it. And that is not on you. That's our job, and that's why we're a team. But I love working with buyers because you guys have this motivation and this next step dream that you want to achieve. So instead of saying to you what I think I do for you, I'm going to go ahead and let some of my most amazing clients that love to talk about me to others, let me tell you what they are saying. So they said that I listened to their vision and never tried to steer them away from the vision. That my dedication to working with other buyers and other realtors was amazing. They felt like I was open. So I had two buyers simultaneously working together. They were friends, and they jokingly said, "You can't have our realtor." But I listened to each one of them, and I think they thought they were trying to buy the same house and that they'd be in competition with each other. And it turns out that was not the case. But they appreciated that, and they said that we fought for the price that they wanted. Another person said that. They were able easily to take my advice on which houses to look at, and how to structure the offer, and even timing on putting things together, and that I was very helpful in helping them figure out what they wanted and needed in a home, and never forced them to a particular home, even if it wasn't the one that I would personally purchase. And I thought that was really great, because sometimes a buyer gets into the market thinking that they're going to look for a certain type of home, and they end up with something completely different. And my goal is to sort of track with you along the way and find out what's the most important, and inevitably to help you get there. So.
Awesome, thank you. There?
I would say, January is Radon Action Month. I don't know if anyone's heard of radon. It's a colorless, odorless gas that comes from the decay of radioactive materials in the soil. Unfortunately, of all of Ohio's 88 counties, Licking County is the worst, and a lot of the surrounding counties have homes with high radon levels, and approximately 75% of homes in Licking County alone have high radon levels. So I would just recommend that if you are going to buy a home, have it tested for radon. If it doesn't have a radon mitigation system, it's amazing to me how many people have lived in a home for several decades, and then I come in representing the buyer, and they never had it tested for radon, yet they've had high levels. And the problem with radon is it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the U.S. and the number one leading cause of lung cancer for non-smokers in the U.S. So it's nothing to really mess around with. You can't taste it, smell it. The best way to find out your home's radon level is to have it professionally tested, and that's something I do as a licensed radon tester. I would also say a sewer scope is a very important thing to have done on a home. And just making sure that you never want a sewage backup in your home. It's just one of those things that happens. It's kind of hard to get rid of that, and it's really a nasty situation when it happens. And I would just always encourage any of you, attend the inspection. I always encourage my clients to come to the inspection, at least for the summary at the end. That way you can see those defects firsthand. You can ask questions, and please ask your inspectors questions, ask your contractors questions, interview them, and just make sure that you get it inspected. Whether it's Bear Property Inspections or another licensed inspector, make sure you get it inspected. That way it protects you as well. And I would say that if anyone has questions about a home, or even if it's something that you see something while you're going through a home through a showing, feel free to take my card, send me a picture. I'm happy to answer your questions and just give you an idea of what I think about things. That doesn't cost anything. That's what I'm here for, to be a resource. So please utilize that. And thank you.
I would say from the title aspect, when you are getting through the process, so once they send us over what we call the title order form from the mortgage company, we do that title examination. And I mentioned to you all before a title commitment. A title commitment is basically our commitment to issue your owner's policy or the loan policy. What you need to look at on that commitment are what are called the exceptions. The exceptions are going to be some standard exceptions that are on everybody, things that I cannot control and I cannot insure for. However, there's a whole bunch of things that you want to know that are exceptions, like those easements. You want to know what your utility easements are running across your property. So pay attention to that. So that's really what's going to tell you a lot about the property you are purchasing. And then also, please look at your mortgage location survey. Almost every lender, when we issue that loan policy of title insurance, it's going to, the lender's going to want us to add what's called a survey endorsement. It's $50 that goes with that loan policy. You want to know what's on that survey, because if your neighbor's driveway encroaches into your property, you want to know that, well, technically the neighbor kind of, their pavement comes over here, but we don't use that side because we access this side, so I can live with that. But if they have their fence, which I have seen this actually, somebody built 13 feet over, encroaching into the neighbor's yard. That's a problem on a small lot, giving up 13 feet. So then you gotta try to negotiate with the neighbor and get their fence moved back. So please, please pay attention. Everything's about the numbers and my payment, and you're all nervous and okay, we got this, we're just gotta get through closing. Pay attention to those things, because that's the stuff that can come back and affect you in the future. So title commitment, survey. If you don't have a clue what you're looking at and you got an agent that doesn't know what you're looking at, you should have got a better agent, number one. But make sure, call me. My cards are here. Just like Bear said, even if I'm not handling the closing, call me. I will be more than happy to try to explain it to you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you all for joining us today.
So there's not really one specific item that, I forgot to say this or that. Pretty much said a lot. So I think we covered a lot of it. That being said, for Christmas this past year, we determine every year if we want our children to have, and they're 16 and 13, we want them to have a gift, or do we want them to have an experience? Most of the time, if we give them that choice, they're like, I want an experience. It makes it harder for a parent, as 16 and 13-year-old boys, to give them that, because that's kind of a tall order. Like, you want to wow them, right, as a parent. So we tend to kind of want to do that for our clients over and over, as we all do on the panel. Like, we don't want you to just buy a home and to have the process be a process. Mm-hmm. We want you, I wrote this down, we want you to feel like you have a bunch of bodyguards. In each of these little sections, right? Like, when you walk on a playground and you're getting bullied and you have a bodyguard, you're going to walk out there and you're going to climb up that ladder with a little bit of hitch in your giddy up, because you're going to be like, hey, Bobby's at the end of this thing and he doesn't know Joe's about to whack him in the side of the head, right? Because I'm paying him. We want you to walk in our office and be like, hey, guess what? I'm buying a house today and I'm closing and I'm going to sign that piece of paper and it's going to be mine. We get to experience that. Seeing people walk out of our office with confidence. My mom, and this is the last story of the evening, she brought me in. I was a year in. I was not green, but green enough. She goes, hey, let's talk about marketing. I'm like, oh, man. I'm excited about that. What's that? What do you want to do? What's that mean? She's like, what do you think our marketing strategy should be? I'm like, oh, we're like doing this right now. Like she handed me pictures and now we're talking about marketing. I said, I think that we should do it like my grandpa did it. Her dad. I said grandpa, not my grandpa. That was, it probably ticked her off. So I said, grandpa loved on people one at a time, over and over, across from the desk. They came in, they sat down, they shoot the crap, like he just loved on them because there was an e-sign, of course, right, in 66. So they come in for coffee, they chat, they talk about the story, what do they need? What can he help give them? And I said to her, I said, I think that worked. That marketing strategy really, really worked. I think that we should do that over and over and over and provide people like just an experience, like feel like they have the bodyguard on the playground, because that's what's going to matter when they are at a Thanksgiving dinner talking about nerdy insurance over turkey, you know. And I'm like, our cousin Eddie's, you know, cat food Jello, like that's what they're going to remember. Like, hey, I have a guy, because everybody wants a guy. Like everybody wants to know that you got a friend in me, or whatever. Cheers. Everybody knows your name. Everything that's ever made cool is because someone remembered something or they remembered something about you. Yeah. And that's what we do. Like we're going to remember the story. We're going to remember the first house, and we'll also insure the second one. And then the rental properties that come when you're like, we're going to buy 15 houses. We're going to, you know, and they're all going to be in Licking County. Like it's going to be a cool journey, and we all get to be a part of it. So we want to, all of us want to experience this with you, whether that's first time, whether that's not first time, and you're just like, I know that there's Jersey Mike's there, I'm going. You know, like we don't, Jocelyn doesn't care, you know, there's still Jersey Mike's left. That being said, we just want you to know that we're all for you and that we're here to help make it easy, because life is hard enough. We want to provide you with an experience, not just a product.
All right, I want to thank our panel of experts up here. I think I can say that you guys will be sticking around if they want to ask some one-on-one questions. But let's just give a round of applause for our experts. And I just want to thank you all for coming out to learn about the home buying process. Like I said, if you have additional questions, they'll answer those. But thank you, and everybody have a great evening. Get home safe.
Yes.
Good job.